Good morning. Yes, very well. Hi, Kelsey.
Hey.
So there will just be some intro music to start, and then we'll get
A
going.
new, exciting open source blockchain platform has been born. Its core mission is to develop easier and more affordable tools for everyone to be able to create tokens and NFTs. For the first time, we're introducing the innovative Tokel platform, a fully decentralized, community driven project with contributors globally. It offers many new powerful features for artists, content creators, and event organizers and token owners. Tokel is building the future of tokenization together with the help of Komodo Technologies. Creators and users have the freedom to create, to hold, buy, sell, and trade tokens with ease. Developers have the freedom to build on top of the platform's layer. Tokel has features such as simplified token creation tools, token decks, and NFT Marketplace. The NFT creation process has an extremely low barrier to entry. Businesses and individuals can now benefit from the token economy by using tokens in everyday life. A built-in decentralized exchange enables peer-to-peer trading. Tokel.io, the future of tokenization to NFT and beyond.
Greetings. I'm Ejuliano, and it's Tuesday, the 8th of February. Welcome to Tokel Talk. Today's episode, we'll be talking about the Metaverse. Indeed. And we are pleased to have on Violeta of Pionauts on today's show. We're also joined here by Kelsey from Tokel platform team, as well as Dream Tim. And we have Cax in the background running the stream. So welcome to all of you listening live or listening to our recorded versions of this podcast. I hope you're doing well and settle right in because we are going to get started with today's show. But before we do any talking to Violeta, we're going to bring Dream Tim in here to share with us some NFT stats. Hi, Dream Tim.
Hi there, Ejuliano. Thank you. So it's been another crazy week in the world of NFTs. There was 273,000 sales plus some change this week alone. So the total amount was $654 million plus some change. One of the biggest projects coming up, Azuki, after launching on the 12th of January 2022, has already generated $195 million in trading volume, and it's the 7th most traded NFT collection in the last 30 days. Some of the most expensive NFTs being sold right now, or that was actually sold in the last 7 days, is a plot in Decentraland for $1.3 million, two Bored Apes for a combined $1.8 million, one Doodle for $692,000, a Super Rare NFT for $691, and a CryptoPunk for $663. Meanwhile, one of the most up-and-coming collections this year, and in the last sort of 7 days, it's Hey Prime, an 8K next generation sort of high fashion apes that is on OpenSea right now, and that is generating huge volumes. One of the funniest places you can find NFT statistics is CoinMarketCap. They always innovate. This time they decided to ignore 95% of the NFT world and are only displaying Solana-based NFT collections. Accidentally, it seems that the data partner for this bizarre list is the uniquely named SoulSea and Binance. So that's all from the world of NFTs this week.
Well done. Thank you, Tim. Dream Tim coming in with some NFT statistics for us. Always an interesting look at what's going on in the NFT world for sure. It's taking everyone by storm on some level here, and I think today's show, it really brings out where a lot of people's focus is going, and that's the metaverse. So I would like to, at this point, introduce Violeta from the Pionauts. Hi, Violeta.
Hi, Juliano. Very happy to be here. And thank you, team, for this very interesting statistic. When you put it in numbers like this into one sentence, it kind of, puts you in the perspective of how actually big is getting more and more.
Yeah, exactly. True.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about yourself and what you're working on. Tell us about Pionauts very briefly.
Yeah, sure. Real quick, I'm super happy to be here. I've been in the space since 2019, I actually started with crypto, more investing and looking into the projects. NFT kind of got into me in the last year, 2020, at the beginning, late February, that I got, very into the possibilities what NFTs are getting into, and then later on into the metaverse. At the moment, I am working as a project lead of a Pionauts NFT collection, which is a high resolution AI collection, which is kind of like it's photorealistic, that brings to life historical figures to back to the contemporary times using AI and human artistry. I'm also working as an NFT advisor for digital fashion brands who are looking into getting into the metaverse. And basically, NFT and metaverse in general has been my main central line of how actually the blockchain, the Web3 space in general could go to the next realms. With our collection, we are looking into implementing it into the metaverse as the next milestone. So that in itself is a journey which is quite interesting to see it both from a perspective of how it goes within working with the metaverse, but also how you can interact with it.
Very interesting. So pleased to have you on the show. And the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm very curious what draws you into the metaverse. You said you started with coins and looking up projects and things like that, and now here you are, very focused towards this direction. Yeah, what's drawing you in so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think primarily it's the technology itself, in the sense that it's quite innovative, but also goes back to almost the principles of the early internet itself, of the potential freedom that actually brings to people and to users within the space, and how naturally internet is behaving and how it's evolving into the metaverse, where it allows users to work and meet and socialize. And I think that on its own has like a very special way of how blockchain is evolving.
Amazing. You're using the word evolving. I'm glad you did that. That's good. The words we use can be very helpful for conceptualizing this, at least for me. And so that makes a lot of sense when you speak like that. And so, okay, we mentioned the word metaverse. Let's take it back one step here. And maybe in your own explanation to someone who might not be familiar with the concepts, what does metaverse mean to you?
Yeah, I think to put it the most simplest way possible, I would just say that it's a virtual space, which is online, is digital, it's 3D, it's connecting users digitally in all aspects of their lives. So it is a multidisciplinary platform, if you will, which contains different websites, different accessibilities, and different opportunities as well.
Feels like with metaverse, there's almost these, like, there's more dimensionality to it. It's more dynamic. You can, like, I was just thinking about the Neil Stephenson metaverse and his books, and I was thinking about him making tokens of his different books, and then people reading the meta books, reading I guess meta books, a little slip there, but reading the books in the metaverse, like, you want to go read by the beach, you go to the beach of the metaverse and read, or something like that. I know that there's also the other possible perspective of it, and being like, oh, well, it's fake, it's not real, and all that. And so as part of the metaverse idea, it's like, yes, the 3D world exists and all of that. But I think for now, for this discussion especially, we'll focus in on metaverse and let it be what it is, without looking at it from at least from a bigger perspective that questions, which is good. It's good to question and be skeptical, and maybe we'll get there in this conversation about a bit of skepticism towards Metaverse. But we'll save that to a bit later. Really, this idea of Metaverse is like, I think you explained it well when you talked about the evolution, and then just this aspect of, how did you refer to it again?
I like to refer it as a evolution of how the early internet was behaving. It supports, obviously, internet right now. It supports like gaming, social media, and everything. But Metaverse on its own, it's like an evolving ecosystem.
I remember you mentioned interdisciplinary.
Oh yes.
Say something about that a bit.
That's the word, exactly. Yeah, I think that comes back to the point. What I started making is that how the Metaverse combines, different aspects. You have decentralized governance, digital identity, gaming, and social media has kind of evolved within the aspect, and you have different applications to it. Most of which is the most famous one, is the gaming, and actually where, some say that it's all started. That's kind of like the core of it. But there is so much more potential and how potential within the future technology of the Metaverse, which we are still in the process of evolving it. But the space moves so rapidly as well.
Oh, okay, interesting. I'm curious to know what you're seeing in terms of those rapid movements right now. Like, what do you see in front of you?
Yeah, I think the thing that, for example, especially now in the last, I would say even months, that has been happening is that how actually mainstream brands and mainstream players are looking into getting into it. Because 1 year ago, even 6 months ago, was more, it was kind of almost like a niche within the blockchain space. I mean, maybe niche is not the right word, but it wasn't as looked as it will become so mainstream as it is right now.
Yeah. Fair enough. And I would say it might even still be arguably be niche right now. And it is, in a way, it is its own niche. But that sense of like these bigger players coming in, we're going to definitely talk about marketing and advertising in relation to Metaverse, and as well as just the general sense of NFTs and tokens within Metaverse. Because I was thinking of those books, and I was thinking, you might even be able to connect it to the physical world with a book itself, and connect the NFT to that book, and you have the physical book, you also have the virtual book, and you could also trade, or even forgetting about the physical book, just those tokens, you could trade that book with people. They have their own value. This aspect of the Metaverse, which seems to come along, is this sense of value that it builds within it, and it becomes tradable value. And you mentioned, just this idea of this evolution and ownership, and that sort of thing. So you're seeing a lot of players really take a good, strong look. I mean, you saw Facebook change the name. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's just an example of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I think Facebook changing their name to Meta is like the example to it. And, this whole mission that Facebook is basically undertaking of becoming the next big Metaverse player, which, there's a lot of controversial opinions regarding that. A lot of established people within the Web3 space, or even people who are just, more dedicated to it, they don't, considering Facebook, reputation, let's say, it kind of goes in a way against what Web3 believes, basically, and the value within the space. About transparency, about actually giving back to the community, not having a centralized authority owning everything. Actually, what you said about, authorship, and how you gain real ownership of your assets, of your NFTs, of your presence, of your avatars. So that's
and of the space you mentioned. Dream Tim mentioned us the digital land that went for sale. Like you that's what I also meant when I feel like there's this dimensionality to it, because not only does it have one facade, but you can go into it. It's more fractal, even, like that you can participate in so many different aspects of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think the ownership of real estate, like a digital real estate, it's big. Land tokens. What Tim was mentioning about the central land has become huge. I mean, 8 months ago, Mana, the token of the central land was, it was like in a very low price, and now it's just skyrocketing. And you even have digital lands in AR who are actually holograms. OVR is one example, for example, that they are actually, tokenizing AR lands within the actual, real life space.
Oh,
So
cool. I was totally thinking about that earlier. And then I was debating to myself, does that count as metaverse? Because oh, great. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
I think it does. I personally think that we are talking about the metaverse as a digital space, and I think it's primarily digital, obviously, but it has its potentially to transform itself also into the real life, because metaverse, I mean, NFTs on its own, they could also be physical objects. So it's not only about a GIF or whatnot. It could be,
Right.
You can have actually a complete ownership, control, and flexibility of building a virtual identity, but that virtual identity can also exist in the real life, I feel. And
So okay, yeah, go ahead, please. And then we're going to take a step back.
yeah, no, let's take a, what you wanted to say.
Let's take a step back, because I feel like we have so many angles that we're opening up right
Yeah,
now.
yes.
And I'm glad, I just want to take a breath here and maybe let Kelsey and Dream Tim have a word here while we regroup our thoughts. What do you think so far?
Definitely, yeah. I'm happy to hear also what Kelsey and Tim has.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, personally, the idea of a metaverse, it's been around for a long time. I mean, a computer generated environment. I mean, if you are familiar with the Sprawl series from William Gibson, those books were written in the 80s. So I think that it was destined to come along because we have the technology to build it now. But if you look at kind of the shift in the way we use technology, um as far as Meta and Facebook is concerned, one of the big things I have against that is the collection of data,
Yeah.
because last year Facebook made about like $28 billion off of data collection alone. And when you are hooking yourself into these metaverses, there's a lot of biometric data they're taking as
Yeah.
well. So there's concerns, there's very valid concerns when it comes to privacy, and trusting larger corporations. But I'm hoping that this is something that we can sort through in the near future before it gets too out of hand.
I think so. I think the technology is bringing us there, where we will have our data self-sovereignty. The evolution of our ownership will give us our own data self-sovereignty.
I think one thing, if I can transfer from YouTube, if you want to rewind a little bit, Christopher Solisby, so one of our talented artists around here, he's saying the term metaverse seems to be the hot word lately in the crypto world. If you were to try and tell somebody who has no clue about it at all, what would you tell them to understand it?
Yeah. That's a really good point, actually, Tim. I think, especially when it comes to metaverse and DAOs, those two words I feel like it's in every second tweet. I mean, obviously with good reason, but yeah, I think what you're saying is a good point. I mean, before actually diving into what exactly is, and talking about different projects, it's very important, the educational aspect of it, being able to translate what actually metaverse is, and blockchain and Web3, all those terminology which they haven't become mainstream yet. And the way the way I try to explain the metaverse is just having it's a virtual space. It's an online world on its own. And what Kelsey also mentioned is not a completely new concept. It's not something that just happened in the last 6 months. It has been brewing more and more in books, in innovation and technology, in how internet was built at the beginning, in the 90s, how actually you had like these small companies just exploring within the space without an actual firm regulation that is happening. And I think that could be, we almost have like a second shot within the space with blockchain, giving us a more of a decentralized way to give back ownership to the users, to the community, basically.
Right on. And you know what, just to add on, because you mentioned, and I'm glad you're bringing up these points, that these things have been going on for decades, really. In fact, just looking it up, I saw that for the book that has the word metaverse in it is authored by Neil Stephenson and published in 1992, which would mean that this year, 2022, is a 30-year anniversary of it. And that book was named Snow Crash, or is named Snow Crash. So I myself haven't read it cover to cover, but I do have some familiarity with the author from some other works as well. And so if you are interested in just finding a bit more out about it, you can also read that book and get to know it a bit more from that perspective. And it also involves digital currencies and all of these things. So I think you really break it down well, Violeta, when you call it a virtual space, virtual world. It really is that. And then the fact that it could potentially transfer into a holographic sense, where no longer are we entering it through through goggles and headphones, whatever, but then we are actually entering it with our whole body in some sense. But anyway, that's another story. So, okay, we've taken that step back, I think, and let's go into NFTs and tokens in general, and because we mentioned about the digital land. And so, for example, this digital land isn't just a picture of the land, and the avatars or the characteristics are not just pictures. Or, for example, with Pionauts, you're having all of these different NFTs that you're creating, which represent avatars. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Some of them will be implemented as avatars within collaboration in the metaverse.
Do you build other tokens, or will you build other tokens for the metaverse that you're creating?
So no, we're not going to be creating tokens per se as of it now. And we are more looking into the collaborating with already existing environments, because creating its own tokenomics and tokenization takes time, as you probably are familiar with. So I think what the main goal would be is to actually bring more of a, have like an interchangeable communities within the space. So both from a gaming perspective, but also NFTs. We are looking with a couple of collaborations, one of which is the Victoria VR one, which is more metaverse, but like into the VR per se, and Ejuliano protocol, which also supports metaverse gaming. So that being said, I think it's also fair to say that it's not only about gaming, but it's also about what kind of content has been delivered, as it is, for example, that the avatars that are going to be there are historical figures. So it could be an interesting way to, to find ways to, for example, deliver educational content into the metaverse. So you can have actually events within a game, for example, where an actual, let's say, Benjamin Franklin is telling you a story about the creation of the United States.
Very interesting, amazing, yeah. And I to also reiterate, it's a shared space, right? I mean, there are other people who might be there.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So it is a very much. I mean, the metaverse in its own, it's a shared space that you can actually interact with, and have your own digital space. But you can also experience others. You can be part of a community that you haven't been before. So it's quite. I think it's quite open and transparent in terms of how people behave within it. And yes.
Okay, good. And you kind of answered a question I was wondering about interoperability or transferability between different worlds. So
okay. So that's kind of like something different. I think when it comes to interoperability, it is still kind of it's something that it needs to develop further because
we're at early stages. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, very much so. Not all metaverses are having a shared protocol where avatars and NFTs can transfer from one metaverse to the other.
Interesting. So, but that's maybe jumping ahead a little bit.
Yeah,
Obviously.
sorry.
So no, for me, I mean, I just, there's so many places to go here, and I guess that represents the metaverse, like kind of what you said. I mean, there's just a lot to do there. What's the difference between a metaverse and an open world game? Because you know, they do seem to have some sort of feeling of crossover.
I think they have very much so. Especially, I think gaming community will have definitely more to say, and someday actually very avid of saying that the metaverse is very much inspired by it. But in both worlds, you know, players do move freely in the virtual environment, you know, without fixed objectives. But I think one of the main differences is that when you have an open world game, you know, let's say World of Warcraft is like a big one, you do have still the net, you know, the authority, the company behind it, which is very much, you know, hierarchy, and you have the CEO and whatnot. And into the metaverse has more of a decentralized system. So I think the way users behave potentially becomes different because you can actually.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So do you feel like or see that the metaverse might be just like in the Neil Stephenson book, you know, where it was a bit of an escape for some? Does it seem like it would be that, not in a negative way of escaping, but being able to jump into a metaverse and interact there and behave there in ways which you know, feel liberating or something like that?
Yeah, I think from a positive side of view, I mean, you are very much free to create your own virtual self. You can even have multiple selves if you want. So it is quite liberating from that perspective. It also gives you anonymity, which I think for a lot of people is crucial.
So do you want to say a bit more about the privacy aspect of things?
Oh, yes. I think when it comes to avatars in particular, obviously having digital assets within the space, it is something that people would choose to, you know, show around because we're spending more and more time within the digital realm. So NFTs on its own becomes something that we, you know, it's kind of like our new identity, our new selves. The privacy aspect would be that, yeah, I mean, it is transparent. Blockchain is transparent. You can see all transactions on the ledger, but at the same time, you can choose whether how open about your real self could be.
Yeah, you can represent yourself in whole different kinds of ways.
Exactly. Yes.
Creating identities. You mentioned you don't even have to stick to one. You can visit all kinds of worlds.
You can definitely.
Well, yeah. And of course, we are still early in the making, and you know, it's an exciting time to have these kinds of discussions. So, you know, one thing that I am curious about is about advertising and marketing. I'm wondering, you know, because I guess we're going through some different ways that metaverse might be used, and people the users will use it to enjoy it. Maybe go play virtual tennis or have a meeting, a board meeting. I don't know. There's just so many. I think one aspect is that we don't even realize the ways in which we will end up using it. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, at least in the near term, you know, how do you see the advertising, the evolution of advertising there, marketing, that sort of thing within the metaverse? You mentioned about all these big players starting to come in and take a hard look and get involved in one way or another.
Absolutely. I think that's genuinely what I'm actually now, you know, more involved with, how actually advertising is being distributed within the metaverse. And that is very much connected on how NFTs behave, you know, and Web3 in general. It's all about the community, and it's all about giving back to the people. And I think that in general, the advertising aspect is moving away from traditional marketing methods, you know, like the pop-up ads and promo videos, because we've been, you know, all the tech, our generation, it's very much has programmed itself not to pay attention to pop-up ads. And the way advertising will be behaving, and it's started to behave, it's non-intrusive monetization in games or digital spaces, where the player experience or the user experience, it comes genuinely first. So it does speak the language of the, if it's a game, the visual game, or the value of the game itself. So it will require much more of a flexibility, as well as a lot of creativity within the space, creating an experiences, not having just the product placement, but actual surrounding that people can interact with.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, you're talking about creating user experiences, and it sounds fascinating to think about the ways that the technology is going to change the way that that the advertising gets delivered and the people interact with the advertising and the marketing, and so that's going to be quite fascinating. You put it quite well, actually. I even thought I should write down that word, and now I forget it. So anyway, luckily we have it recorded, so we can go back to it. But it basically is all about this, the way that the user experience, the benefit of the user, right?
Exactly. Yes, and I think first benefit of the user, putting the user, the community member first, and then feeling that you're being rewarded. There are a couple of examples, one of which is
it was monetization. What was it? Something about the monetization.
What did I say?
Yeah, it's okay.
I think non-intrusive. So it's not
non-intrusive. That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we returned to that one, because although we could have rewound and heard the word again, I think I wanted to ask about that, and I wanted you to just go into non-intrusive monetization.
Yes, I think that is basically connects with the idea of creating an experience, and creating both from content-wise, but also visually wise, how actually ads and promo videos, or like the story behind, is connected with the mission of the space. Like, for one example.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Please go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one example could be, just to make it more concrete, is let's say you have a game within the Metaverse. I don't want to be naming, so not to shield particular clients.
Sure.
But then if you want to put, let's say, a billboard, or kind of a small moment within the game, which is advertising, but it's not you buy this, but it's actually you can have almost like a small mini game within a game, which it is sponsored from a particular brand or a client of the Metaverse, and then of the game, sorry. And then that kind of doesn't affect really the user retention, and it protects the player experience. So it's not that you are being bombarded with advertising, but you are. I think that's,
and you're interacting with it. Interesting.
Exactly.
You could literally, yeah. Oh, interesting. So what do you think of this, Dream Tim?
I think it's all very, very interesting, because the metaverse is such a fascinating space, which can be a massive entrapment, or a place where people can actually, socialize, maybe in decentralized fashion, and have fun meeting, like-minded people that they do know online, and form even deeper relationships with them. But yeah, on the flip side, there's always, the Facebook and the Google, and these kind of companies that all they want is to suck out the data out of us, until they can target us with advertising to kingdom come. So yeah, it's a great opportunity, like many other technologies, and if we abuse it, it could be something bad too.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point, what you're saying about the big tech whales not dominating the space. And it is a real concern that we all have to have within the space. But what I've also happily noticed is that the NFT and Web3 community in general is quite the intelligent one. And they do see, we all see how information and data was abused from Facebook and Google and all those bigger players, and they're not going to be let as easy. You have like bigger players genuinely canceling Meta and Facebook about their own ambition of becoming like the next big thing into the metaverse space. So yeah, I think it also comes back to how it's going to be regulated and who is going to be in charge of that, or is it going to be like a hybrid model of different aspects to it?
Interesting. Yeah, that brings us to the next idea or next point, which is who regulates the metaverse. And I think I'm sure there are a few different ways to answer that. And is it even regulated in some cases? And is it, like you had talked about being able to behave and interact differently when you go into a metaverse. So do we regulate each other? So how do you see it going? Firstly, you mentioned regulation, that sort of thing. Can you speak a bit more to that? I know you're not a lawyer and none of this is in any way that kind of talk, but it's more so just a curiosity here on what you're thinking about in terms of that regulation that you're mentioning.
Yeah. First to say, definitely I'm not a lawyer. And but it's a very legit question. I've had a conversation about it with a lawyer, a friend of mine recently, not particularly about metaverse, but in general about what is happening into the blockchain space and how solely the regulation and legislations are still there, but it is happening more and more. And the way I personally somewhat imagine it to be, and I would like to see it more, is first having it, as you mentioned very, very smartly, in a way regulate ourselves, because it is about giving back power to the community and to the users. So creating some kind of a collective consciousness within the space will be crucial, I think. Not policing each other, but it's more like sticking to certain type of respectful interaction and rules in itself. But obviously, that could very fast go out of hand. So I think more of a institutional or like governmental level would make sense. And I think already like big institutions like the European Union and the UK are looking into it, how actually metaverse will be regulated, because there's a lot of fraud and happening basically. And
I see. Yeah. Okay. So that's an interesting point, and it brings me to the idea of like back to blockchains and that idea is permissioned versus permissionless. So like there might be some permissioned metaverses where there's a certain aspect to it. You have to have whatever the regulation is. It might even probably will likely involve some sort of KYC or anything else in that type of layer of doing things. But then there's got to be some. There must be. I'll be surprised if there aren't going to be any permissionless metaverses.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely have different players. I mean, that's kind of like, we don't really know how exactly it's going to evolve, but some people say that it's going to be one standard model for all different type of metaverses, and then by sharing protocols you're going to have like interchains and being able,
okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some people do think that you're going to have already kind of like smaller to middle scale metaverse like projects which are going to have their own regulations. You might have one that you need to subscribe as a part of a, let's say,
condition.
a DAO or condition, yes, which for some might be a good aspect, for others might be saying blockchain is for all, there should be no barriers, no regulations. So I genuinely believe, for myself, I think that I don't see it becoming just one norm, just because it's already, I'll use the word again, it's so interdisciplinary, and you have so many different players, from traditional big tech giants to quite innovative startups, or like DAOs even, that is just going to be up to the users, really up to the community, of how they're going to interact with the space.
I'm glad you brought it there. It does. I like the sound of that, where the communities really take it into their own hands. and create it for themselves. So that's very interesting. And maybe from bringing it back to your own personal experience of being involved with the Pionauts, and you mentioned us the next like part of the next step is building and creating this metaverse experience. So what's going on with that for you? How has that been in terms of you learning? What can we learn from you about that?
Oh yeah, that's great that you mentioned. Right now, it's quite a technical experience that I'm having, which is very new to me because so far I was having it more from a advisory perspective. But right now we're in talks of, how exactly you're building the 3D avatars, the 3D creation, into which modeling software is gonna go with which metaverse, because some metaverses are more restricted using objects, let's say from Blender or Maya, which is a software 3D avatars tools. So it is my current experience with Pionauts and, having in talks with partnerships with potential other players within the metaverse is how you integrate the avatar from a technical perspective. Just to open a bracket, I'm not I'm working with a technical team, but I'm not the one who's actually making it.
Okay.
So that's like a very new door to me that it's opening up when I'm working with the Pioneers. And it's quite exciting as well because it allows a big creativity from all fronts. From our front, how we frame the NFTs and how users can interact with them. Because when it comes to the Pioneers itself as a project exists very much and will exist very much into the metaverse, but on the roadmap there is also collaborations with with more mainstream potential partners. It is about creating also like a film around it. So it exists on its own in the real life, I would say.
Okay, yeah.
Which I think is also something that some projects I don't want to say missing, but they're maybe not exploring enough because it is also about bringing a wider audience to space.
A wider audience, you said.
Yes. So yeah, so far I would say that I'm exploring the spatial dimensions, how the virtual world will be accessible with the particular avatars, how the avatars are built, and how logistically could work out, which game and whatnot. So it's quite interesting because that's the first project that I'm so in depth with it, and rather than just advising particular projects. And it's very very exciting.
That's great. That I'm smiling just listening to you talk about it. I can imagine what an expansive experience it's been so far, and sounds like you're just getting started, and there's a lot more to do and to learn. So good for you on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's already has started, and it feels so expansive. So the trick is basically to to keep the idea of how creative and and open you can go, but also stick to the goal and stick to the roadmap, because that's I mean, I'm getting off the subject about metaverses a bit, but it's also about how NFT can develop, NFT collections, or how NFT on its own behaves within the space, whether it's almost like a token itself, maybe not.
Talk a bit more about that. Talk a bit more about that. We can go into NFTs here. People don't mind. It's an NFT show.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's go into that for a few minutes. Go for it.
Yeah, I think it comes to the utility of NFTs. How actually you as a holder gives you special inquiries, and it also connects to the metaverse. You have a lot of launches, for example, into the crypto voxel or the Decentraland. You can go to a metaverse concert with a specific NFT. I think even in the NFT New York, was it last year or the year before that? I don't remember. I think it was last year that actually the tickets were NFTs. So you can use NFTs on its own in different contexts. And I see that more and more happening, and that's kind of what inspires me also with Pionauts, is that we as a team are thinking how we can move forward and create an ecosystem around the NFT collection. So it's not only just selling JPEGs, which is also a legit culture on its own space, and but it's also like exploring the possibilities of also connecting with the kind of like more of the mainstream world of entertainment and film and 3D animation, and that bringing it back to the metaverse and connecting that through experience.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
it seems like that space of human creation, creativity, artistry, it deserves a bit of an upgrade now into the next level. We've been watching streaming has been incredibly good for sure, and live streaming and everything. And now it seems like what I'm hearing you describe is this potential for the next part of the evolution of experiencing media, audio visual media and interactive media, gaming media, and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. I definitely see it like that. And it's evolution is the word, because some people do use the word revolution as well, but I genuinely just see it as something that is just growing and expanding. And I mean, that's the beauty of
feels
blockchain.
like a good bridge. Feels like a good bridge between the like you mentioned, you use the word the mainstream and all that, but I think I know what you mean, in the sense that it's already people who are skilled at doing these things, and they already have a lot of resources to get to do them, and they're interested in connecting into this blockchain world and this metaverse potential world, NFT world, all of that, and so it's kind of coming together right in front of us. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
okay.
That is exactly what is happening within the entertainment space, but that also comes back to just real quick a bracket of traditional players, more of a established institutions are also looking into how to get in. There is a huge need to people to, as you said, to bridge both worlds, and I think it has started to happen, and you see more and more examples of it.
Okay, well, this has been a fascinating conversation for sure, and I'm sure there is definitely more to be had, but we do have to slow it down and end it somewhere. I look forward to what more there is to come, of course, and I really appreciate you being here today, Violeta. We're not quite done the show. We are going to hear a little bit more about some Tokel news and info, and of course, if there's any other thoughts that you want to share, there's still time for that. But anyhow, before we end off this conversation, I just wanted to throw it over to Kelsey and hear from you, Kelsey. Any thoughts that you wanted to leave us off with around this discussion, or any questions? If you still have any questions for Violeta, please, of course, ask.
No, I mean, I'm really happy to have you on the show. I think that the metaverse in general was unavoidable. I mean, it's been in science fiction since the 80s, so it was bound to happen. But I would say it's an interesting time to be alive due to just the increase in human computer interaction and user experience design. So it's going to be an interesting few years for the metaverse, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Please go ahead, Violeta.
No, yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with you, Kelsey. Very, very excited to see how everything is going to evolve, and I'm really grateful for you having me on your show, and has been a pleasure to speak with you all.
Oh, no doubt. You know what? The way that you got on the show was by reaching out through the guest form, and that was on the Tokel Talk website, and so that was very helpful. So if anybody else is listening and wants to join the show, we have a guest form that you can fill out on the website, and we will contact you to follow up with that to arrange, see where that can go for us. So yeah, other than that, Dream Tim, we're going to throw it over to you as well. Any thoughts around this conversation?
No, I did enjoy this conversation today thoroughly. I mean, it was good to hear about the metaverse and the possibilities and how NFTs are and can be involved in it. So it was a very interesting chat. Yeah, so thank you very much all about bringing about the subjects and going through them. And I think there were a few questions as well from the audience that maybe we can answer.
Perfect. Go for it. And just to remind everyone, it's just tokel.io/Tokel Talk to scroll down, and you can fill in the guest form to join Tokel Talk as a guest. Yeah. All right, Dreamton, did you want to ask any of those questions?
Yeah, so basically there's two questions from YouTube. One, how is NFT part of the metaverse? And then the second question was, what future do you expect NFTs to have?
Nice. Go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So first question was how NFTs are part of the metaverse, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, in so many different ways. The most traditional one is within, as we spoke about earlier, as avatars, for example, and how you actually, create your digital assets within the space. You can even, for example, if you have your own NFTs, you can, have your own NFT gallery, or you can, show your actual NFTs within the space. We spoke about lands. You can actually own digital land, which is also as an NFT. You can own gaming assets. The classical, for example, a sword or a gun, that could be also an NFT. You can own clothes. That's also something that is becoming very big. That means that you can actually dress your own avatar in a specific brand. You have also examples as collaborations. You can really have tickets, online tickets, or like real ones actually as well as NFTs. There's so many examples out there, which could be as an advertising, could be an NFT, a video of NFT that you can actually own, or a project could own it. Augmented surroundings. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. Were you? I hope I didn't cut you off there. Were you finished?
No, yes, I did. That was
okay.
Name.
Yeah. So because you're making me think back. Actually, I'm glad you brought it up. Maybe around the final points here is the idea of status, and I find that NFTs offer that as well. Like just we are just like other animals, organisms. Just like other animals, we show off status, we show clout, these kinds of things. They do have relevance. They matter. They have importance to people generally, and biologically, we could say. And so I see these NFTs as an opportunity for people, like you mentioned when you mentioned the clothing. That's what brought it up for me. Is that just the NFT of the clothing, like. Especially, and now we start getting into like one of one. It's an NFT, and I'm the only one that owns this, and so it becomes an opportunity as well in the social spaces and the social experiences of metaverse to bring some of that in there.
Absolutely. I think I saw a video recently on Twitter, which was really fun and describes this really well. It was an interview of a person on the internet, on the street. They asked him, which one would you prefer to buy? This JPEG, and they showed him Bored Ape, or this Lamborghini? And the guy was like, "Oh no, I know about NFTs. I'll go with the Bored Ape. I'm not interested in the car."
Interesting, fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, Tim, I think we're going to throw it over to you for some Tokel news and information. So why don't you jump in with that right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, apart from a recent release in development where we have an updated version of the application, there is a bunch of other things that are happening right now with Tokel. One of the biggest ones, obviously, is that we're starting to prepare for the biggest release to date, which is the NFT Marketplace that everybody's waiting for. I mean, I think everybody has seen now that there is more and more artists that start putting out collections in Tokel. And once that part of the project comes together, I think that's when we're going to see, a much bigger sort of response and activity around everything, because then collectors are going to be able to start purchasing some of these pieces that have been going around. And, that's going to be the start of the overall activity. The other
Excellent.
thing that is really exciting right now is the fact that we've got a new ambassador in Turkey, and this is Ginger Design, that a lot of people might have seen around. She's now part of the team, and she will be representing us, in Turkey. We have seen that, Turkey has been a fantastic place for growth for Tokel. We have already a sizable audience there, and Ginger is going to help us to get more members on board, and she will continue helping us with translating things and spreading the word basically in Turkey and to all Turkish speaking people.
Wonderful. Good stuff. Welcome to Ginger Design. And if you haven't seen any of the artwork that Ginger Design creates, take a look at that. It's quite nice.
Another person who has become part of Tokel Assist has been Ahmed Daif, and he's been, working tirelessly to promote the project. He's been fantastic. So we've also brought him on board to help us with a few things. And as we go along now, we're trying to grow, and we're trying to intensify our efforts to get the word out there, to get more people on the platform, and to give life to the ecosystem and the NFT and token galaxy we're trying to build.
Very nice. All right, Ahmed Daif. Okay, Dream Tim. Thanks a lot for the news and info there. All right, so then over to Violeta. Please, Violeta, share with us how can we find out more about you and what you're doing and about Pionauts.
Yes, definitely. You can. Probably the easiest way would be to follow on Twitter. You can follow me, Vio Marin, as you can see on my Discord handle is basically the same on Twitter, but without the dot. And you can also follow Pionauts, which is Pionauts. And there, if you want to join the Discord and learn more about the community and how the project is evolving, you're very welcome to. And please feel free to also contact directly or on Discord if you have any additional questions. And I'm looking forward to more Tokel events.
Excellent. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great to have you. And as usual, it's really nice to have Kelsey and Dream Tim here. And of course, the audience. We really thank you for joining us for this live stream. And those of you who asked the questions, we really appreciate it. Also, if you're watching this recorded after the fact, we really appreciate you and hope that this has been educational, informative, entertaining for you. And we really look forward to having you back for future Tokel Talks. We'll be back in a couple of weeks here, 22nd of February, and we'll be discussing with some artists about art and NFTs and tokens. And we'll get into some aspects of trade-offs and challenges. And so we're really looking forward to that. And until next time, we have Cax here as well. I really wanted to say thank you to Cax for running the stream. We're going to be ending the stream now. And we thank you all for joining us, ending the podcast until the next one. Wishing you very well and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, and thank you, Ejuliano, for hosting as usual.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
A new, exciting open source blockchain platform has been born. Its core mission is to develop easier and more affordable tools for everyone to be able to create tokens and NFTs. For the first time, we're introducing the innovative Tokel platform, a fully decentralized, community-driven project with contributors globally. It offers many new powerful features for artists, content creators, and event organizers and token owners. Tokel is building the future of tokenization together with the help of Komodo technologies. Creators and users have the freedom to create, to hold, buy, sell, and trade tokens with ease. Developers have the freedom to build on top of the platform's layer. Tokel has features such as simplified token creation tools, token decks, and NFT Marketplace. The NFT creation process has an extremely low barrier to entry. Businesses and individuals can now benefit from the token economy by using tokens in everyday life. A built-in decentralized exchange enables peer-to-peer trading. Tokel.io, the future of tokenization to NFT and beyond.